Someone play Initial D music. But yeah, gee, the fucking controls on PC, like, it's so good. I feel like I'm playing Doom on PC versus playing Doom on, like, a console. Like, it feels like Turok was originally meant for the PC, that's how good it is. I actually didn't know that Turok was on Steam until recently, and I was like, I gotta get it. And I was expecting the controls to be shit, because like most ports of older games like this, especially for the N64, doesn't really port well. Like Nier Automata I bought on PC recently, and I love that game, but oh my god, is it like nearly unplayable on fucking console, I mean on PC. I can't do it. Yeah, okay, no, I'm still alive. Oh man, I love remakes so much. I pretty much haven't stopped playing it since it came out. Yeah, Asuka, surprisingly, she barely plays like video games like that, but she played the shit out of 7 remake, and she says she loves it, even though it should never be 7, by the way, the original. But you know, whatever. Now, you know what I would be hyped for? A fucking 9 remake. A 9 remake I'd be hyped for, or even a 6 remake. I'm not sure why they haven't tried remaking 6. That's my fear for when the Elder Scrolls 6 finally comes out. Like, it's been so long since Skyrim, and Skyrim was since a change up from the core formula that I worry the Elder Scrolls 6 won't even be recognizable as the Elder Scrolls game. That's another thing, actually. I actually really like Skyrim, but oh my god, is Oblivion so much better. Oblivion feels much more like a completed game than Skyrim. In Skyrim, there's so much cookie cutter like filler everywhere that it sort of becomes a ritual than it is an adventure. Like in Oblivion, you get this. To be fair, I haven't played Oblivion in a while. I'm sorry, I haven't played Oblivion in a while. So this got hidden in the water. Wow. So I'm not familiar with what the quests are called, but there was a quest in Oblivion where you have to find, like, go in this well and get this ring, and then oh, it turns out the ring fucking is a weighted ring, and this guy was trying to kill you or whatever. Cool. You know, what can I say? In Oblivion, there are more quests that you can do in the game that affects your world, and there's much more to find when you enter a dungeon than in Skyrim. In Skyrim, whenever you go do a side quest that's not a very big side quest, and to be fair, even the main quests suffer from this problem, is that most of it is, hey, we go through a cave that's almost exactly the same, we fight Draugrs, and then we fight a higher Draugr, and then you learn a shout that you're only going to use maybe once, and then that's it, and then that's the quest. It goes from a fetch quest to a kill quest to, oh hey, Draugr, almost 90% of the time, and then you're done. Now granted, I'm not saying that all quests in Skyrim are like that, it's just that a majority of them are. There's not a lot of there's not a lot of freedom in Skyrim than there was in Oblivion, but there is some. The thing is though, is that in Skyrim, the quest that gives you the freedom of choice that does affect your world is so trivial that it's barely noticeable. But it does happen, but I feel like that should be a bigger role in the game. Like, the biggest example I can give is the Dark Brotherhood in Skyrim. What most people don't know is that when you're about to start on the Dark Brotherhood, you can choose to kill the Dark Brotherhood member and then start the quest to kill the Dark Brotherhood versus joining the Dark Brotherhood. And that was your choice as a player, you know, it doesn't tell you what to do. And I think that's cool. But there's very little of that in Skyrim. At least in Oblivion, whenever I enter a quest, most of the time it's something different. Most of the time it's a different enemy. Most of the time it's a different layout. It doesn't look the same, even though in Skyrim all the dungeons look exactly the same. Granted, maybe just a different layout, but it's all pretty much the same. You solve the same puzzles all the time, you fight a high Draugr, you get a shout, that's it. Skyrim was so simplified to be more accessible to the new casual audience consoles. Oh, consoles were more banging, I don't even know what you're saying. All of the freedom from quests, the spells, the skills from Oblivion and Morrowind are gone in Skyrim. But really dumbed down mechanics, which is what I worry about moving forward. Yeah, that's another thing. In Skyrim, you can pretty much be one thing and then be completely different at the end of it. In Oblivion, you were completely dedicated or even just obligated to being the class that you picked. You know, but in Skyrim, I can be a Nord and then I can end up being a mage. It makes no goddamn sense. Like, I should not be able to be a mage if I'm a fucking Nord. I know Valorant is like supposedly the next best thing, but I honestly don't see it that way. Because in the beginning, people were talking about, people were trying to talk about how Valorant was going to be the Counter-Strike killer, but it was never going to be. A big reason as to why Valorant was never going to kill CSGO is because of the inventory system. Or the inventory economy, I should say. If it has nothing like that, Counter-Strike is never going to die. Just look at Team Fortress 2. That shit was so prominent until they fucked up their market. Now nobody plays Team Fortress 2. I can't really speak for Riot. I have heard a few things, but I'm not familiar with Riot. I never played like League of Legends that much. But so far, I think calling Valorant the Counter-Strike killer is a huge oversight or overestimation. I don't think Valorant is going to kill Counter-Strike at all. The bigger thing about Valorant is that it's 85% gun game and 15% like ability based, but the abilities break the game. The game is not, I don't think the game is balanced at all. Sage, I know the game is still in beta and everything, so like I'm not saying this as like a final opinion, but I think in order for a game to be contesting with Counter-Strike, it has to follow the exact same formula, otherwise it's just not going to be the same. The difference about Valorant's game design and Counter-Strike's game design is that if I'm in a 1v5 in Counter-Strike, I have a higher chance of succeeding in a 1v5 than I am in Valorant. In Valorant, if I'm in a 1v5 and post-plant and I'm approaching a site, then bam, Sage ices a floor, or Sage builds up a wall, or Raze has her completely busted fucking special where she shoots a rocket. Now it's not busted or anything, but you know that rocket is just dumb. She has like three abilities that can kill. Phoenix has his, and I think Phoenix's ability is dumb. Phoenix has his ability where he projects a what's the word? A clone of himself, I guess. That's like a hologram, but it's like a flame hologram that can shoot you and kill you. It doesn't make any sense to me. How? I mean, maybe I'm trying to make too much sense of it in like a realistic terms, but I don't think it's fair that he can create a potential 6th player in the enemy team to have the ability to kill you with that ability. And more importantly, after he uses that ability, it automatically puts Phoenix at full health, even if he wasn't at full health. It's crazy. I think there's a lot of things that needs work with Valorant, but Valorant is focused more on team chemistry than it is on individual raw mechanical skill. And I think that's another reason why Counter-Strike, it's hard to contest it with Counter-Strike. I'm not saying that Counter-Strike is made in a sense where it's on individual raw mechanical skill, but it does complement it a lot more than Valorant. Well, yeah, but the thing is that everybody has those utilities. Everybody has the same exact utilities, and they can use it to their advantage. Now, obviously, there's like other factors to think about in Counter-Strike, like whether our map is CT or T-sided, or you know, controlling the economy. But the thing is that when you create a competitive system where people potentially don't have the same kind of utility as you, it kind of creates a disadvantage depending on what character is being played against versus what you have. What is this? Yes, but the individual utilities is what makes it, in my opinion, I believe it makes it unfair. Not unfair, but it makes it harder for an individual player to be able to contest it. Valorant strives for team-based chemistry more so than Counter-Strike does. And I'm not saying that Counter-Strike doesn't have as much team-based chemistry as Valorant, but you can tell Valorant is way more prominent in that aspect. And like another thing is that even though in Counter-Strike people have the utility to be able to counter like the same thing of what I said with in terms of abilities, the thing is that all of your utilities can be countered with other utilities. If somebody throws a molly, you throw a smoke. If someone throws smoke, you can either flash push the smoke, or you can push through the smoke, wait, and then see what happens. That's a bad idea though. If someone throws a flash, you can turn away from it and bam, you're good. There's no utility in Counter-Strike that is so preventable of a push or of a player being able to do anything than the Valorant abilities. Like Counter-Strike, in my opinion, is like 90% gun mechanic or gun skill and 10% utility, because you can have the best utility like placements in the world. If you don't know how to engage in gunfights, you're dead. You're going to lose to players who don't know how to push the utility but are better than you at the gun skill. One thing I will say that I do like about the gun game in Valorant versus Counter-Strike is that at least everybody can have the same weapon. When I'm a counter-terrorist in Counter-Strike, I absolutely cannot stand the M4. I hate it. I want an AK at all times. If I was able to just have the AK at all times, I think I would enjoy it a little more, but I feel like counter-terrorists killing terrorists and then getting the AK is like a whole nother dynamic that is, I'm not sure what the word I'm looking for is, but it's another skill. It's another skill dynamic that I'm not familiar with, but that's another thing that adds to the dynamic of skill in Counter-Strike. I'm sorry, I can't find the right word for it. Having weaker guns on a defender's side kind of makes up for the fact that playing defensive or playing a defensive side on a map is a little bit easier than pushing a site, because you can just stay in sight and watch vantage points, you know? So I guess in that sense, I do agree with CTs having, oh my god, CTs having weaker weapons. What? How are you gonna put a clip here and I can't get it? The CSGO updating point you just brought up was gonna bring me to my next point. Valve has really only put effort into patching Counter-Strike Go when they got competition. I feel like Riot has the resources and listens more to their community and might actually succeed in taking CSGO competitive out of mainstream at least. It took 1.6 a long time to die, so I won't say it's going to completely kill it. You have a fair point. I think because of how big Riot is, it might actually at least what's the word, shrink the size of the Counter-Strike player base. There was another game that was Melee and fucking Smash Ultimate and even Smash 4. Melee is such a fucking prominent game and is really big on, like, honestly this could actually be comparable somewhat to Counter-Strike and Valorant, because Melee is such a fucking big game, but when it comes to competitive support, Nintendo wants no part of that. They want to make, not that they want to make Ultimate competitive, but at the end of the day, they support that. They don't support Melee, which is why Melee is technically dying, from the competitive scene, which is why it's not an Evo anymore. Melee was basically surviving off of the community rather than Nintendo itself. So that's like another example to give. I don't like the abilities in Valorant. I think it's a huge glaring issue when it comes to I think it's a glaring issue when you try and compare it to Counter-Strike. I don't think it's a glaring issue for the game in general. If that's how the game is, that's fine. But that is a big issue as to why I prefer Counter-Strike over Valorant.